You are listening to She Rises, a podcast dedicated to women who are ready to stop settling and start living their lives by design. If you're ready to talk about the stuff that weighs you down and get practical advice on everything from your health, body image, spirituality, relationships, and personal growth, then you're in the right place. Hello, I'm Giovanna Capozza, your host, master coach, spiritual teacher, and mind-body expert, and I'm on a mission to unsettle women all over the world. Are you ready to rise? Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of She Rises. I'm your host, Giovanna Capozza. I have a question for you. Have you ever had an amazing conversation with one of your girlfriends and stopped and thought to yourself, hey, this should be on a radio show? Probably more than a few of you are going to say no to that answer or to that question. But this is me we're talking about here. So I was having this amazing conversation with a very, very dear friend and colleague of mine, Ramona Astrid Bernardi, and it was such a great conversation. It was recorded with the intention of sharing parts of it. And when we listened back to it, we realized, you know what, there's some good stuff in here. And with her permission, I'm sharing that conversation with you today. So if you've ever wondered what it would be like to be a fly on the wall with me and my friends and our conversations, this is it. This episode's for you. So I have my dear friend Ramona here with me on this episode that was previously recorded. And, you know, we're talking about our weekend. We're talking about some insights we had. We're talking about the lens in which we view our lives and our growth. And I hope you enjoy it. We certainly enjoyed having the conversation, and I certainly enjoyed listening back to it. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get a lot out of it. And hey, won't you leave us a comment? Go to SheRisesPodcast.com. Find the episode there under podcasts. Click on the show notes and you'll see down below the comment section, and you can leave us a comment. Let us know how the show was. And hey, share it with your friends. You can go ahead and share it on Twitter or Facebook or any of those other great social media outlets and let people know what you're listening to. Sharing is caring, and I really, really appreciate it. Thanks so much. And hey, enjoy this episode. Ramona, just so you guys know, is my soul sister. She, you know, we won't talk for like days or weeks or sometimes months, and I think at some point years, right?
Yeah.
And we connect again, and we have these parallel evolutions that are happening and these totally different existences, but yet somehow weave together with same lessons and
transformation.
And transformation, yeah. Right. And so we just thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if these awesome, transformative, spiritual conversations that we have, wouldn't it be cool if we let other people in on it and shared with them? And so that's what this podcast is about. And it's going to evolve and grow. And, you know, I'm hoping one day we can talk to all of you live. But right now, here we are on the podcast. And so yay! We're going to go ahead and start and just dive in and share. This weekend, I did something which was radical for me. I went on a complete media blackout, radio silence. From noon Friday, I had no phone, no technology, no music even, no radio, no podcast, nothing. I went into silence. The only thing I allowed myself to do was read my Course in Miracles book and 2 other books I'm reading, one on receiving and one on the 12 stages of healing. And yeah, and I let myself cocoon. I barely had conversation. I know, right?
Sounds amazing, really.
Right? It sounds amazing. And, you know, I was terrified on Friday. Like I had my last conversation with a friend of mine in Chicago, and we were wrapping up, and she was like, okay, so like you're going to do this now. And I was like, yeah. And I'm kind of freaking out about it a little bit. Isn't that weird? And so,
that's amazing.
Right? And then as soon as I did it and I was into the first hour, I was like, oh, yeah, of course.
Could you feel your breath return? I feel a sigh of relief just listening to that.
Right? I felt my breath return, and it was so interesting to watch the stories that my mind...
Bubble. Yep.
Right? And it was just crazy. And I noticed my addiction to food and eating and just like, oh, I'm bored, I'm going to eat. Or, really even boredom itself, which God bless my mother. My mantra as a child was, I'm bored, right? And I really realize now that boredom itself is just disconnection from source, is disconnection from yourself. I mean, how could you ever be bored if you're in the flow, if you're in the present? And
amen. Can you say that again? That sounds amazing.
Right? This was my revelation. So how could you ever be bored if you're connected to source and you're in the present moment? And, I got that. And I wanted to share too, Ramona, that part of, and I know at the top of our conversation before we started recording, you mentioned relationships. And part of my thing this weekend was to challenge myself to go into the dark. Now, it was new moon and it was a perfect time to do it. And to challenge myself, I sat outside for half an hour at midnight every night for 3 nights. And the fears.
Wow. So can I stop you? Can I ask you a question? What was the inspiration for this?
Okay.
Where did this come from?
My inspiration for this was a conversation with a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And some work that I've been doing around connecting to myself and connecting to source and God, and noticing that as much as I desire that, there's this little stopgap where I'm not quite getting there, and I'm using avoidance, right? So I'm avoiding with going out, or I'm avoiding with food, or I'm avoiding with getting on the phone and talking to someone. So these avoidance strategies. So that was part of it. The other part of it is I recognized there was a trigger point with the vastness of space and darkness. Now, this sounds totally right out there, but I went into the planetarium a few weeks back.
Yeah.
Dark room, all space soundy and stuff. And I had a panic attack.
Oh, okay.
So
now
anyway,
we're talking.
Long story short, I connected all these dots together to, really having a fear. As much as I want that connection to source, having a fear of it at the same time. So I challenged myself to go into the void, literally in quiet solitude, and then at night, because we had the dark moon, and so therefore there's no light bulb in the sky. Yeah, it was pretty intense.
And how was it when you went into the darkness?
Oh, so I went in and I got so many. I took pages and pages and pages of notes in my journal. The first night,
what did you experience?
The first night I experienced total panic and terror. I walked out of my front door and I decided to walk down the steps, and every sound I heard, it was just, as you know, in the dark, everything's amplified and your mind goes nuts. And finally, after 20 minutes, I realized I'm more afraid of feeling fear.
Yeah.
than the thing that I'm supposedly afraid of, which is nothing, because I don't know what's out there. It's just unknown, right? As soon as I got that awareness that I was more afraid of the feeling of fear, because I thought that was going to kill me, just feeling the fear was going to kill me. As soon as I got that, it released. And I spent the next 10, 15 minutes outside oh, okay, I could do this.
Enjoying the quiet, enjoying the darkness.
Not fully
Not
enjoying
quite.
it until last night, because last night was my last night. And I didn't want to do it because I thought, it's the last night. I'm tired. I'm sleepy. I don't want to stay up till midnight. But I did it, and I went outside, and I had the best night ever. I literally, if I had a sleeping bag, I could have slept out there. That's how comfortable so awesome. I got.
Wow.
And yesterday, I also did another thing, is I went back to the planetarium in the museum.
Check you out.
And I stood in front of the doors, and I was like, okay, breathe. You could do this, girl. I had a panic attack last time I was in that room.
Yeah.
Walked in, no effect whatsoever.
Brilliant. I love it. This is so amazing. And how do you feel? Free, liberated? What's this feeling on the other side?
Free and liberated, and I felt connected. And honestly, this morning when I woke up and I knew I had to get back to my 54 emails and whatever the heck else was in my inbox, I'm feeling a little resentful.
Yeah, I hear you.
Feeling a little pissed. I don't want to go back to that world. Tons of observations.
Sorry, say that again, that last part?
Tons of observations and just...
Wonderful.
Yeah, and it's so what did you do this weekend?
Oh, man. Are you asking me for real?
I'm totally for real asking you.
First of all, I have to reorient myself. What did I do this weekend? Okay, so you know what? First, I want to respond to your story. Thank you very much for doing this. This is why I love you. This is because you are a mirror for me on this. This is tantamount to me going into Vipassana. It's a similar sort of going into the darkness. And the first time I went, and the second time I went, the first time I went, I had several panic attacks. So I really understand. And a couple things that I of note, the boredom, I really appreciate you bringing that to, your own attention, because I also noticed my own boredom comes for me when I want to distract myself. It's a real, and it's a coping mechanism when I'm not stimulating myself. And I love what you said about the connection, about wanting not to really, of this fear of connecting to yourself, to the source, to all that is. And I also have those stopgaps. I love that imagery. And that has been literally the last, I'm going to say 2 months, has been just me witnessing those stopgaps and going, aha, I see you, I see you, I see you. And really coming to admission, really, and surrendering to the parts of myself that say, yes, I want this, and then fight so hard against it. So that's what it feels like inside,
Yeah.
So congratulations. That's enormous. I'm so proud of you, because I remember you telling me about this boredom piece from when you were a kid.
Yeah, I mean, it's been huge, and we're really raised. I mean, if you're bored, go do something, right? Like that's
right.
the culture we're in. If you're bored, find something to do, go do something. But actually what I realized is boredom is just resistance to connecting with yourself and finding a distraction. And so many, I mean, if whoever's listening to this, if there's one thing you can do for yourself is to challenge yourself like this for a whole weekend, 3 days I did. I have signed up in July, hopefully, get accepted to Vipassana as well. Yeah, crossing our fingers. We're going to go together. And, I'm so excited for it now. And I think you remember, Ramona, when you were first telling me that you were going to go in silence for 10 days with no talking. I was like, are you nuts? Like,
very common reaction, by the way.
Yeah, it's like, are you nuts? Like, I could do the whole silent thing, and I could do the 10 days, and I could do the meditation.
But no distractions.
No distraction and no talking. I mean, that's one thing I didn't do this weekend, is I did talk. I kept it moderate, but I did talk with my housemate, and so there was interaction. It was moderate. And you remember when you told me that, I thought, there's no way I could do that. Well, now I cannot wait to do it.
Awesome. Very, very excited.
Right?
Good.
I can't wait to do it. And so anyway, going back to this whole cultural thing of like, if you're bored, go do something. But when you put yourself in a state of silence like this, and I recommend that everybody try this, at least for the 3-day weekend.
Absolutely. Something feasible, something
that you could start with is first of all, you start to notice all the crazy making happening in your head. And you start to notice that it's not real. Like, they're just stories.
It's exactly right.
Right?
Exactly
and they're thoughts, and BS, and I was having memories from the past come up.
Exactly.
But I was observing them.
You were in, if I could respond to that, you're in, that's exactly what happens when you go deep into the silence. And for me, it really helps me to stay with that and develop my self-compassion, just being with who I am and witnessing those stories for what they are. Brilliant. Yes. Totally transformative in my world.
Yeah, and I love that you just brought that up of self-compassion, because if you're in the silence of it and you're not resisting it, there's nowhere for you to go to make it wrong or make it bad or say, okay, I have to stop this. So, but yeah, there's nowhere for you to go to kind of you have to stop yourself. I mean, my last resort was eating, because that was the only accessible thing. And after the first day, I really caught how much I use that to distract. And so day 1 was noticing the eating, and day 2 was something else. And then day 3 was a whole other layer. And anyway, so I highly recommend that you try this out, anyone, to reconnect to yourself and to source. And it's almost like this beautiful space of realignment. And one of the things that I was reading while I was in my solitude was this book, which it is not in front of me right now, but it's The Power of Receiving. And The
Power of Receiving? I'm going to write this down.
The Power of Receiving. Where did I put that book? I'll have to find it, and we'll give the title of the book for people. But anyways, what's been coming up for me, both in my course reading and studying, and then this book that was been in front of me for a little while, that I've sort of put off and said, yeah, I'll get to it. This little book, it's called The Power of Receiving. It's by Amanda Owen. Awesome book. Anyway, so, we can't receive anything from source or the universe or any place unless we're in a receptive state.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if I might say, I want to hear what you have to say, but I need to tell you that since, I'm going to say November, that's what in my heart, those are the words I keep hearing. learning to receive, being the receiver. And I believe that there's a huge opportunity right now for all of us to really, really embrace and embody that receptive nature that's deep inside of us.
Yeah. And you said November this came to you?
Yeah. I've been really feeling it. So I'm really glad. Going into the silence is a way of becoming a receiver,
yourself,
isn't it?
Yeah, putting yourself in that receptive state. And, she highlights several states of receptivity in the book, like meditating, allowing, noticing, listening, welcoming,
Beautiful.
contemplating, being, hearing, watching, accepting, all things that rarely happen if you're like glued to Facebook.
Amen to that.
And I'm so proud because here's our parallel path again, Ramona. You said November, this word came to you. So
yes.
When I do my New Year's Eve meditation every year, I ask for a word, like what's going to be the theme of my year. Yeah. And I also got receiving.
No way.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much, sister. That's awesome.
See, parallel paths. But anyway, so I'm fully on board for I'm so excited for Vipassana now. I can't wait to extend this. I'm trying to find a way to reintegrate myself back into the world this Monday morning and, back into, needing to use technology because for work and life, it has to happen.
And even connection in ironically, right? We're connecting right now through technology. So.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, trying not to go into resistance around it, which I did feel coming up this morning and allowing, but so that was my weekend. That's exciting. I'm so happy for you. My goodness. What was I going to say to you? You were talking about, so the words that came to you were receiving is that like a theme for the year? Yeah, I sort of do this meditation and I ask what's the thing for this year? And one of the words I got, or the word that I got, was receiving. That this was the year of learning to receive. It's funny you say that because I had there's a couple of things that I also do something similar every year, and I got for me it was ease, grace, joy, and simplicity. And now that I'm thinking and we're talking, those are all aspects of receiving, right? Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to open myself up right now to say I am ready to receive. Thank you very much, Giovanna, for sharing this with me today. What was my weekend like? It was more like I recognize my distractions. I am in them. I am finishing up some paperwork, really getting myself on a good path. But a lot of my weekend revolved around my mother. So can I go into this a little bit? Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure everyone listening it was Mother's Day this weekend, and it was right? Mother's Day. That's right. So, I thought about you just because, we can go into this if you want, but because of your own mother and maybe, that she's no longer here. Yeah, I bought her some carnations this weekend. I was wondering about that. Flower. Yeah. Awesome. And did you put them on display in your home and remembered her? Is that how you connected with her? Yeah, I did. I bought them on, I think it was Friday morning. I bought them and I put them in a beautiful vase, and in a vase just in front of my bay window. And yeah, they're in front of me right now. I'm looking at them right now. Gorgeous. So I had, for me, it's a glorious gift. My mother and my brother went to Europe for 3 weeks, and I picked them up last weekend, not the weekend that just passed, the one before. And so I needed to really create an environment so that my mother and I could find a way to. I did so much transforming in the weeks that she was away. It was such a transition for me to hold my own, have my space, create boundaries, and still keep her, sort of nurtured at the same time. So it was a week that was really about my mother and my relationship and me learning to, let me qualify this a little bit. Last time I was up at Vipassana, I really went into embrace my inner child. I really embraced the lost, lonely little girl that I used to be, or that I still feel quite often. And I was growing in my capacity to mother myself. So when it came to my mother and her return, I could see that I was already becoming more of a woman rather than responding and reacting to her like a child. Yeah, cool. That distance created
That's right.
some space. Yeah.
Exactly. And I really recognize that I want it. There's a piece in me that's bubbling up where I really am feeling the call and the urge to just be in my self-love and to promote that. Not just, okay, I'm going to say it for women, but not just for women, just that deep longing for self-love from that graceful feminine perspective. And so that's what I was in. And I was my mother, I was using her as a bit of a mirror in that, you know, she was coming up and showing this to me, but you know, upon reflection, and this is just coming out now. So thank you, Giovanna. I really can see that that's what it is. It's that powerful mirror of grace and holding myself in a container, and that it's possible, and that actually I do want it, because for a long time, just like you felt that roughness around the boredom and the connection, I was also it felt blistered and bruised, and I wasn't ever able to go in there and say, yeah, this is in fact what I want, and all of me, not just parts of me, all of me. So it was a really great weekend, I have to say, in all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, it's so amazing. Again, it's like I feel like the theme is similar. It's like when you gift yourself space and reflection, you know, whether it's space away from someone like your mom, or whether it's space from, you know, other distractions, like you mentioned, that you notice the distractions coming up, and for me, the technology and all that stuff. Whenever you can give yourself space, you can actually just connect to whatever it is that needs healing. And I think that's why we're so, you know, sick as a culture, is that we don't take enough of that time. And it's, you know, and I said this to someone last week. I'm like, you know, we would be so much better off as a human race if we taught our children in school emotional intelligence.
Amen to that.
Right? Because we don't get taught how to deal with our feelings. We don't get taught how to even feel them or have them. And so usually what we get taught is, you know, we get rewarded for suppressing a feeling, right?
Yeah.
So it's
absolutely.
You don't
clambering to the top, you know, really shining those intellectual aspects rather than the emotional aspects.
Exactly. And so what a gift we give ourselves. You know, I tell so many of my clients that literally our job as adults is to learn to parent the child within.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Because we weren't well parented. God bless our parents and all that they did. And you know, we both have an Italian background. We're, you know, first generation Canadians, even though I'm here living in California. So that comes with a whole host of things, but it doesn't even matter where you're from or what your background is. It's literally, we as adults have to learn to reparent ourselves, and we can't do that unless we give ourselves this time and space away from distractions or all the things that we use to suppress our feelings. So I love that. And, you know, as I mentioned at the beginning, like, even though it sounds different, you know, it's a parallel lesson that we're both getting.
Yeah, and that's our dynamic, which I totally enjoy. And I love that you said that. If I could just share a couple stories. I have a number of godkids now, which I'm very proud to say.
The fairy godmother extraordinaire.
Yes. Thank you very much. And I came across this book called it's a book for children, obviously, and it's called How to Love Myself and Others. And I saw this book, and it was in a alternative health store here in just around the corner. And I ordered one for each of them, because I'm like, this is it, exactly that. It's that emotional intelligence piece. It's that basically it had and I'm sure it's been done before, but this is the modern take on it. And it was basically, you need to be full. You need to fill your jelly bean jar up first. Fill it up until it's overflowing, and then give it. And if somebody is the part I love the most was if somebody's mean to you, it means they haven't filled up their jar with jelly beans. So understand that and give them some of yours. And I'm like, I love that, you know. Come
Yay,
on.
jelly beans.
We need more jelly beans in this world. But anyways, no, that's exactly right. And that's directly from the Course in Miracles, right? This is what Jesus has taught us. You know, love ourselves first, fill ourselves up, know that the world is an illusion and that there is nothing but love, right? And how often can we stop and perceive that? It's impossible unless we take the time.
Yeah, totally. And another thing that, came to me in sort of thinking about all of this and even leading up to, being in this weekend of silence that I took for myself is that we're relatively young when it comes to all of this technological explosion. I mean,
Totally.
I'm not old here. Okay. I'm turning 40 in a few weeks. I'm not old, but I remember, I'm gonna sound like one of those old people. I remember when, but I remember, here it comes. I remember when this thing called email just came out. And I'm just gonna I'm literally laughing at myself. I feel like a collective rolling of the eyes of anyone, under 30 listening to this.
Whatever.
But whatever. So I remember when it came out, and the reason I'm saying that, and also coupling it with I'm not that old, is that it was only like 20 years ago.
It wasn't that long ago. Absolutely.
And now it's not that long ago. And
absolutely,
we've been bombarded by like technology is just crazy. It is getting like faster and faster and faster and faster. Yeah. And so we are not, as a human race, our nervous systems have not caught up with this yet.
Absolutely. We're not adapted to it yet.
We are not adapted. We have no coping skills. We think we're coping because we're very adaptable, but we don't have the coping skills, and we're desiring more and more connection, and yet we're getting further and further away from actual real connection, which is the connection to the self and to source, to God.
100%. 100%. There's a couple things I wanted to share. I told you I went on I disconnected from social media and
yeah, you've been on Facebook a while. I'm so impressed.
So November 2014, I had this revelation as well. I'm like, I'm so distracted by the world in so many different directions. I have to start somewhere. And that's where I decided to start, because I was using social media against myself in so many different ways. I can't even begin to express it. So I recognize the toxicity that I had caused it to become in my own life. I don't want to knock any social media. It's here and it has its purpose and here for a reason. But I was using it as an attack on myself. And so I disconnected from everything. And I have to tell you, it was actually really a painful process. It wasn't an easy transition. I grieved for about a month. I felt very lonely and disconnected. But then my ability to perceive myself as I truly am started to bubble up. And I had never had that opportunity. I've never given myself that opportunity. And so instead of using everything else to form some sort of self-concept, I was beginning the process of looking at myself for who I really am. And I don't know, it's been quite the process. But the only thing, I think I'm starting to want to head back out in the world. But I, just like you right now, where you're like, I don't really want to go back into this technology. I don't really know how to get back in, to be quite honest with you. I'm afraid a little bit of what is waiting for me on the other side.
Yeah, well, I hear that. I feel that. I mean, even just today, I'm noticing that there's a pull. It's like, I haven't gone off Facebook for the last however long since I started it, and I feel a responsibility because I have this group coaching program and they have a Facebook group. And then I have this other group that I started for coaches. And I just feel this responsibility now, like I need to be on there somehow. And I feel the pull of it, even the pull of answering emails and like the WhatsApp goes off and the text goes off. And I feel like I'm being pulled, and this feeling of anxiety is coming up again as like, it's like the scattered focus. Yes. And so one of the cool things this morning, so I went for my chiropractic entrainment this morning. I see a chiropractor that does NSA, network spinal analysis. And he said to me, how can you be in control of it rather than feel like it's controlling you? And I thought that was such a very good distinction, right? Because I'm starting to feel pulled and tugged and like this anxiety coming up, like I got to answer this email and I got to deal with this thing. And absolutely. And so now it's like finding that balance. So I hear what you're saying. It's like, if I get back into it, how am I going to get back into it? And how does it not become this unwieldy beast again?
That's right.
That controls me versus I control it. And is that
or that we're in relationship together, so that I'm not at its beck and call, and there's some peace while approaching it, right? Peace in the eye of the storm of technology.
Yeah. And so I think that's my next challenge. It sounds like, it's interesting if you're contemplating getting back into it.
I recognize that pull. It's starting to I feel like I can stand there and not buckle under the pressure of it. So I think I might be ready to dip my toe back in the water. So we'll see.
Yeah. So, and taking it back to, you mentioned the Course in Miracles, and I've mentioned it a couple times, and, taking it back to, whether it's the Course or any other teaching that's similar, because that's not the only, be all and end all that teaches about source versus the ego, but it is it is paying attention to when we're allowing the ego thought system to run the show versus the other thought system. In the Course, they talk about right-mindedness and wrong-mindedness. Or just literally, and to simplify it, just when you are connected to self and source and you are in flow versus when the ego thought system's taken over and you're judging, criticizing, taking like multiple selfies, whatever it is. And, just keeping that sort of thing on it. And I have this rule that I'm allowed to post like one selfie a month.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I love that. Have parameters.
Well, hang on. I've not followed it all the time. I have to say, I haven't followed it all the time.
It's all good. But then you feel inspired to, and that's a different story, right?
Exactly. And I've also noticed, that it sounds silly, but these, I have to stop myself for a minute because I'm sitting at my desk in front of my bay window, and there are these two squirrels having a heyday on the tree.
Love it.
They've just now stopped side by side, and they're just staring at me, and I'm just thinking, yes.
Hi guys, how are you?
Hi guys. And it's reminding me of the squirreliness of my brain and how crazy it gets. But
beautiful.
I love it. But anyway, I digress. But back to Facebook, it's like, I noticed even up until like, let's say last year, I was like changing my profile picture like on a weekly basis. And I'm like, what is that about? Like, who cares? So now it's like, I'll keep it on there for months. And then I think, maybe I'll change it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it sounds so stupid and superficial, these tiny things, but it's a way of self-monitoring.
They're very meaningful. Don't dismiss. I really appreciate this.
Yeah. So how will you get back into the belly of the beast?
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I don't know, but as you were talking, a couple of instances popped in my brain, and we had talked about sort of coming out of the closet. Do you remember that conversation?
We did. We recorded that. We might put that on,
in terms of our spirituality, right? So I want to say these words. I feel like part of it is it's about the balance for real. And I'm being very inspired now because I recently have been speaking with, I'm going to say, young people between the ages of 17 and 20. And the feedback I keep getting is that they feel like, or they don't know how to communicate live with their peers without their phones. The phone has now become a buffer.
That's so sad.
Yeah, and I sit there and I go, you know what? When I came back from Vipassana, I'm like, actually, counterintuitively, I'm like, I really want to revive the art of conversation. Especially for these young people who, like, unless you're watching Charlie Bit My Finger or cats meowing and purring, I mean, what are they talking about? What are they connecting with in themselves and with each other? So, I just really feel like very motivated and inspired by that. And some of it is, in fact, perhaps, blogging about it or writing about it or through an authenticity in my voice and sharing through that channel first and then allowing the other pieces to make themselves available. I don't know exactly, but I like the idea of really starting a conversation. Maybe I just put myself on YouTube and start talking, through the art of conversation. And through you and I doing this is a step, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. And, we're sitting here talking about, how you're going to dip your toe back in. It just dawned on me, well, you have this idea of, as we did with this podcast, but also in addition, just for yourself personally, that you are inspired by this. Like that just made me so sad. And we're losing that. I think we're losing that as a human race. If we do not actually catch on to this right now and start teaching the future of the world, literally, you know, without getting all like, you know, 80s music video on us here, but, you know, we are the world. But, you know, it's so sad to me that this is the feedback you're getting from our young adults.
It's shocking. It's very shocking. And then I asked a group of them, you know, so because I've been off of the media for a while, like, so what's going on in the world? And every single one of them came back to me with a pop culture reference, which is fine, wonderful. But also where are young people, like, where are their attention spans, right? They're definitely not inside. And it's definitely not a greater worldview. It's more, you know, what's prevalent today in pop culture, which is, I'm not bad-mouthing bad pop culture. I'm just, you know, I would love to get that reconnection or the connection going from the inside out.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even about bad-mouthing pop culture so much as seeing that it's a symptom of our time.
Exactly.
You know,
Amen.
I don't remember growing up and ever thinking that, you know, following a famous person around with a camera would be interesting. And now
that's right. Like, a very good point.
It's all the rage. Like I only this year, well, was it this year or maybe the end of last year? Because it was this year. Yeah. 2016, that I actually watched my first episode of like actual reality TV. I mean, reality TV, like for us, for our generation, started with like Survivor. And
that's the first one I remember, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a game, right? Now, like, I watched my very first episode of,
What did you watch?
I watched The Real Housewives.
Oh, of which county?
Of Beverly Hills.
Ah.
Right?
Oh, my goodness.
Right?
We had to jump in, Giovanna.
I know, I had to jump in. So I watched The Real Housewives, and I've seen a couple Kardashian episodes, and they literally are like crack. You can sit there... And it's like potato chips. And it literally, but it didn't last very long. It's like I did this for a few weeks. It's like, wow. And then all of a sudden, it was boring.
Good.
And I didn't really give a crap about these people's lives. And even the fascination I had it's this energy and this voyeurism that we have.
Yeah, that's it.
But it's another symptom of like, how can I distract and avoid and be consumed by something else?
Yes.
So that I don't have to face myself and my life and my feelings and what's going on.
Oh, you just opened a whole door for me.
But it's right. But this is the thing. And I just, you know, and I'm saying this because one of the things that came to me in my weekend of silence.
Please. Yes.
Is all these memories of childhood.
Yeah.
Like
the freedom.
The don't come inside till the street lights come on.
I know. Oh.
You know, nothing to worry about. I didn't have a phone. If I wanted to call my friend, I'd pick up the home phone.
Yep.
You know, or I had to ride my bike down the street and see if she was home. Knock on the door. Right. Knock on the door. Hi, is so-and-so there? Can I play? And I was remembering all of this, and you know, now hearing you speak about how this generation's growing up, it is sad, and we have to find a way to like adapt to it and have them still have humanity in them and not be all about the Biebers and the Kardashians.
You know what, Giovanna, you're the best, eh? This is why I was thinking the exact same thing. I was remembering myself and my innocence and how free it was. And I go, you know what? We created this like special bubble in time after like the baby boomers and the first generation immigrants in Canada. And then it just as quickly vanished because this is in our own lifetime, right? And then I thought to myself, I thought about kids and technology these days. I go, how do we blend it? How do we, you know, because letting them let go of their technology, I don't think is the most appropriate thing. But also, how do we reconnect them? So I think there's a lot of room there for us to grow in connection with technology. So
absolutely,
like a co-creative process, you know?
Absolutely. And I think, you know, taking these breaks from it or giving yourself
bravo
that time of solid. And that's all. I mean, we can't stop progress. If you sit here trying to like bash TV and media, and I mean, you're not going to stop it. and you're just going to get left behind. And literally I see this in my parents' generation, right? It's just like resist. And it's like, you know, and I laugh, you know, I poke fun at my dad because my dad still gets a kick that my phone takes photos. I mean, so awesome. Talk about being way off, you know. And then there's other people his age. He's 84. God bless him.
Yeah.
There's other people his age that are like blogging and like they're, you know, so it's individual. But we can't rage against it and sort of resist it because we'll get left behind.
No, I'm much more interested in bridging, exactly. You know, like taking all this ancient information and like, you know, like bringing it back to the course, the truth of reality and blending it with these beautiful new innovations that are coming. We can thrive innovatively, but connected at the same time, you know?
Real connection, like to each other and to ourselves. And that's, I think, again, it's a symptom that we're seeing, you know, all of this reality TV and the social media and just how, like you said, with those kids, they don't know how to connect and have conversation. It's a symptom of our time, but I really feel we need to get in there, you know, as the adults, as the people that can bridge that gap. And because otherwise, what's going to happen? I mean, I'm freaking out and just so happy, excited that I had this weekend of 3 days of solitude and what it did for me, like, oh, this is amazing. I mean, what if we just did that every weekend and like made our kids do it too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even things like, you know, I love the thought of, and actually like doing it though, like if you're at a function or out for dinner, like really, like no phones for 2 hours. Put them away. I don't want to see them. Doesn't matter how often it's buzzing, or just turn the whole thing off, you know?
Yeah.
So
you just reminded me, I saw this thing on TV a few weeks back, and I forget where in the world it is, but there's this restaurant, and it has like a little canister or like a little bin in the middle of the table, and it says, deposit your cell phones there. And the first person that picks up their cell phone for any reason during dinner has to pick up the whole tab.
Oh, I like it. Yes, exactly.
Isn't that cool?
That's very cool. So incentives like that, right? And challenges even, right? So people can rise to the challenge. I love that.
And what do we need them for anyway? I mean, beyond the emergency use, it's like I was thinking about like this weekend and I thought, oh, you know, I should be in my Facebook group and posting because, you know, I have the group call with them on Monday and I should be, or, you know, I thought of something and I thought, oh, I should post that. It's such a revelation. It's like,
I'm sorry.
Isn't it good? No, feel free. Laugh at my expense. No, but it is. It's ridiculous. It's like, first of all, how self-important of us that it's like, I just had a thought. I need to share it with the world.
Yeah.
And second of all, you know, the people that are in my group program, they're not going to die if they don't hear from me over the weekend. I mean, let's get real here. They're not going to die.
It's the truth, right? And there's 1,000 other things at every moment to distract them and take their attention.
Exactly.
So.
And the world did not end. It's Monday. I had 3 days without technology and the world did not end and, you know, planets didn't fall out of the sky.
Amen. But they did for you. They did for you. You inevitably, you embraced all of those things. And you feel so much more whole, I have to tell you.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. I'm going to receive that because I'm practicing receiving. Yeah, I thank you. I appreciate that. And it's, you know, and it's still an evolution. Like I said to you at the beginning, I'm feeling this like resistance and like almost this like anger coming up that I have to like, you know, respond to my sister who text messaged me about some homeopathic remedy she needs me to tell her about, or, you know, or that I need to like call my accountant. I mean, so I'm still navigating my way around that bridge that you just talked about. It's like, how do I bridge the way of the world that, you know, is technologically based, and this is how we communicate and what we need to do. Like I need to do my taxes, you know, I can't just be like, no, I'm meditating this weekend. You know, so
I hear you.
Right. And I wish I could call my accountant and say, sorry, I'm in bliss. I can't speak to you. But how do we do that? And I'm still navigating that. I'm, you know, I call myself out on that. And I'm still in that place of what do I do now? Like, I don't want to lose what I got this weekend.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go back into the craziness of that world. And yet like you said, there's a bridge. So what do I do?
I'm with you on that one. I'm still learning and growing in that way. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I just know that what struck me when you were talking was like there was a lot of emphasis on the word what. I don't want to lose that. But you can never lose it. It's always with you. So it's what are you choosing to focus on, right?
Good catch.
I don't know, but part of me is I've been experimenting with, I think the environment has a lot to do with it, right? Like, are there something within the sea of technology that you can stop for even 10 seconds and just look at to remind you of your connection, or, take a breather for, like, even, I'm telling you, micro moments, 10 seconds, take a breather, take a moment. And I think those moments cumulatively over time will have a great impact. That's what my insights want to respond to you that way.
Good advice. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, taking that break throughout the day. One of the things that I'm committing to doing is getting back into my practice of TM, transcendental meditation.
Beautiful.
It's just so healing and calming for the body, mind, and it's just such a great practice. And again, I let the to-do list kind of get in the way of making that a regular practice again.
Absolutely.
And I found myself just organically going into TM over these last 3 days of silence.
Because it's there, right? It's there waiting for you.
It's just there. And I didn't feel like, oh my God, is that 20 minutes up? Like I've got to do this or I've got to do that. I was like, no, I'm going to do this. And
what a gift.
It just happened organically. Like I was sitting down, I was reading, and I put the book down and I thought, I'm going to meditate. And I meditated and I napped. I mean, how long have we known each other? I'm sure you've heard me on more than one occasion say that I have a nap deficiency gene. Like I don't know how to nap because I can't turn my brain off. And then I wake up feeling groggy and gross. Yeah. I napped, and I'm not talking one nap. I napped like 3 times.
Wow. I'm so proud of you, dude. This is amazing.
Isn't that awesome? I mean, like, we're celebrating naps, but it's like I didn't feel groggy when I woke up.
Good. It is an art. It is an art, and I'm so glad.
I gave myself permission to rest and relax. And
that's the key.
It sounds crazy that we have to do that, but we have to do it, especially the ladies listening.
Amen. You have to give yourself permission. Just give it. It's not for me. Can I just talk about this for a second? When I say giving myself permission, I still don't even know the total impact of it. But years and years, I'd get frustrated trying to think about what that means. And it's just like a letting go. It's an ease, it's a flow. It's a understanding that the nature of the world gives you permission. You have the right to be here, and it's your birthright to rest. And that makes us powerful. It's the only way we can recharge and be the light that we are.
Yeah, and be receptive.
Exactly.
Yeah. Totally. Receive, be in that feminine energy, the yin, whatever you want to call it. It's, being in that state. And you're right. Giving permission is literally just a letting go. And it, reminds me of that course lesson. I need do nothing.
Exactly.
I need do nothing. I just need be and remember who I am.
Absolutely.
Which is not my Facebook profile picture or, someone texting or, we can take time away and be in silence and the world will not fall apart. In fact, it'll probably come together.
Better than we could even imagine.
Yeah. Cool.
I love it.
Well, that's a great place to end.
I like it. It feels right. It feels right, my darling. I love it. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
This as the first step, and I really look forward to more connection on the inside out and with you, my sister.
Yeah, agreed. Ditto. And you are my soul sister, and I'm so happy that you're sharing this space with me. Thank you so much for tuning in, and keep rising, everyone.
For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure you head over to sherisespodcast.com, and I'll see you there. If you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure you tune back in next week when I dive into more juicy topics to help make your life the best it can be. And hey, if you've enjoyed listening to the show and you love it, head on over to iTunes and leave me a rate and review and subscribe there to the show.